Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. Charlie Munger, one of my favorites, the late vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren's former partner, he once said, "It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent." I want you to think about that quote. It's remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent. Charlie Munger did not obsess over brilliance. He obsessed over avoiding stupidity. And today, we're going to actually unpack one of the best frameworks I've heard of recently for doing exactly that, avoiding stupidity. It comes from a guy named Adam Robinson. He's a chess master, an author. He's an advisor to some of the world's smartest or most elite investors. And Robinson defines stupidity in a way that I think is going to make you rethink your own blind spots. Then we are going to break down the 7 factors that make you and me and all of us more likely to commit to stupid mistakes. And then what we should do about that. What do we do about them? So when Robinson was invited to speak at an investor conference, he was told he could talk about anything he wanted except investing, right? Like the investor conference, the investors didn't need to hear more about investing. So without thinking, he blurts out, "How about how not to be stupid?" Then came the hard part, of course. He had to define stupidity. So it took him a month of deep thinking, and here's where he landed. Here's what he came up with. Stupidity is overlooking or dismissing conspicuously crucial information. Now, by crucial, that means the stakes are high. By conspicuous, what he means is it's right in front of you, and yet you either miss it or you ignore it. Now, this is not about a lack of IQ. In fact, the smarter you are, the more likely you could actually be tripped up by these factors. Because intelligence operating in a complex environment has its costs. You can still be blind to the obvious. Now, there's 2 ways I think stupidity is actually is engineered today. Robinson actually points out there are entire fields built around making you overlook the obvious. One place you overlook the obvious is in magic. Like that's the benign version, right? Magicians misdirect your attention with your full consent, and they do it purely for entertainment. The other place it shows up is with different frauds and cons. That's the malicious version. Con artists use misdirection all of the time for personal gain, and they exploit the same mental vulnerabilities. Now, there's 7 factors that lead to stupidity. Stick with me because we're going to go through these 7, or then we're going to talk about how to combat them. Robinson's research, he found there's 7 conditions that dramatically increase the odds you'll miss the obvious. Odds are, as I run through these 7, you are in one of these environments, or you're being impacted by one of these conditions right now. Number 1, being outside your normal environment or changing your routine. When you travel, when you're in a new situation, or when you're breaking habits, you could be disoriented. If you're in an unfamiliar territory, we actually lose the autopilot cues that help us catch mistakes. So when you're outside your normal environment or you're changing your routine, the odds you're going to miss something increase. Number 2, being in the presence of a group. Why? Because groupthink kicks in. You start assuming someone else will catch the problem, or that the majority must be right. That could lead to definitely increasing the odds you're going to miss something obvious. Number 3, being in the presence of an expert, or maybe even being the expert yourself. Experts can intimidate you into doubting your instincts. Or if you're the expert, you could be overconfident. Overconfidence can blind you. Number 4, doing a task that requires intense focus. When you're locked in on one detail and you're obsessing over one detail, you can miss something glaring that's happening right next to you. You can miss something that's happening right next to you because you're so hyper focused. Number 5, information overload. This will definitely increase your odds of missing something obvious. When the volume of data exceeds your brain's processing bandwidth, important details can get lost in all of the noise. Number 6, physical or emotional stress or fatigue. When you're drained, your cognitive performance starts to drop and you miss the obvious. And then number 7, rushing or being in a hurry. Rushing or being in a hurry. Time pressure will make us skip checks we'd normally do. Now, Robinson goes a little further and he points out something that I think is pretty chilling. He says that all 7 factors are present right now in US hospitals. I think that that's pretty alarming. Doctors and nurses are often outside of their routine. They're operating in groups. They're relying on experts. They're focused intently on one patient. They're overloaded with information. They're under stress and they're rushed. The result, according to estimates, there's somewhere between 200,000 and 450,000 people in the US that die each year from preventable hospital errors. Now, I haven't tied that figure out. I haven't gone too deep on it, but you figure there's 250,000 people at least somewhere thereabout in the US that are dying from preventable hospital errors. That's more than, 10 times the annual deaths from car accidents. Now, these are not stupid people. They're intelligent. They're trained professionals operating in environments that engineered to produce mistakes. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but if you think about a hospital, all 7 of those show up. So the takeaway isn't to create paranoia. It's definitely not. It's to create awareness. When you find yourself in one or more of these conditions, slow down, right? When you find yourself in one or more of these conditions, build in redundancy, ask for a second set of eyes, challenge assumptions. Adam Robinson's definition makes stupidity something you could spot and defend against, and Charlie Munger's advice makes it something you can intentionally avoid. I'm going to challenge you to go back and listen to those 7, maybe even write them down. Because in the coming days, here's what I'd love for you to do. I want you to pick one important decision or project you're working on. And then I want you to run it through those 7 factors. Which of these 7 factors are actually present? Now, for each, write down a safeguard you could put in place. Maybe it's a double checking of something. Maybe it's just simply slowing the pace. Maybe it's getting a second set of eyes or a second opinion. I don't think you need to aim to be brilliant every day. I think you need to aim to avoid the avoidable mistakes. Like Charlie says, there's incredible advantage in simply being consistently not stupid. That's all I have for you today, the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.